Well, and it's not just small business owners that are looking for an exit or a liquidity event, right? It's also Google and Microsoft and Meta and Amazon that have eliminated something like 50,000 middle management jobs in the last couple of years. So it's both very large and very small. And I would imagine everything in between, where you're seeing, rather than one director has two or three managers, each with two or three people, you're now seeing one leader with 10 directs or 12 directs. So it's just a lot flatter. There's fewer steps up or fewer rungs up the ladder, which is just going to make it a leadership nightmare in the coming decades, because the gap now between the leader and the doer is such a big gap. There used to be intermediary steps to learn those leadership and management skills, and those steps are gone. And so how are you going to make that kind of a jump?
So I agree with you to an extent, but I also think there was a level of corporate bloat in the bigger organizations, and I think that's
Okay.
because the evolution of technology. I think we had more people in the mix because the older systems and methods and way you operated businesses required more managers. Smaller groups worked in silos that need a manager.
Mm-hmm.
That manager talked to another group and so forth and so forth. And that was the only way to make the big machine go round.
Right.
Versus I think as technology's evolved and those legacy models, especially in corporates, I think we had too many people and it needed to be thinned out. Now I think there's a difference between thinning out and flattening.
Okay. How would you describe the difference?
I would say having an appropriate level of removing the game of telephone, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fewer people in the chain, the more clear the communication becomes from let's say from one to, if the chain's 15 people long, the message
Right.
is screwed up by the end, right? Versus if the chain is about 6 people long, the probability of it maintaining integrity or at least close enough is exponentially lower. So if you can remove the number of people between the work and the decision making, then you can have a more fluid product or service or offering or
Mm,
throughput, right?
right.
But if you take that from, if you go from one to, or from 15 to 2, okay, now you're just pedaling really, really, really fast. Like there's not enough great communication is flattened, but now there's no
Not enough bandwidth to
sustainability.
get stuff done.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a risk here for organizations that are pursuing results, short-term results at the expense of long-term organizational health. One is just you put yourself in an unhealthy situation, but two, the world is changing so fast, and if you're super streamlined, I think you sacrifice agility. Like your ability to pivot and go do something else is severely limited because you just don't have organizational bandwidth to innovate, to try new things, to explore new markets, new products, new ideas. I think there's a lot of danger in downsizing or flattening too quickly.